This isn't any regular heat. This is nuclear heat. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bockoven.
War Games review here on 93.7 The Ticket. I don't think I did it quite as cool as Rhea Ripley did, but I give it a shot, and that's what counts. Survivor Series War Games happened this past weekend. Of course, it's still part of the weekend. I suppose last night, Saturday night, and it was. There's a lot to break down, so that's what we're going to do here. This is Nuclear Heat, our WWE Week in Review show. I am Jake Bockoven, your host, alongside my tag team partner, Augie Pena, also partner in crime. I'd like to throw that out there as well, even though we don't commit any crimes. Yeah. But it's still fun just to say it. I think it makes it sound a little bit more menacing, which is good for a wrestling show. But we were talking a little bit before we jump into this that War Games, it's very interesting. And maybe, I don't want to crap on the show because there's plenty to talk about, but maybe didn't quite live up to your expectations here.
Yeah, no, it did not. It just, like you said, there were some things that were fun about it. It just kind of a predictable, show, and they did some things to further some storylines that probably should have been tied up, months ago. No need to continue, and that just, I feel like that ruined some of the matches and what could have been. They throw people back into them, so.
Yeah, it's interesting. And that, I mean, it kind of is wrestling. Is now we're kind of right back into Liv versus Rhea and Finn Balor versus Damian. So you've got the whole Judgment Day thing going, kind of confusing about where the bloodline thing is going to be this week. But my guess would be pretty much where it has been.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still going to be battling each other. I don't know if that solved everything. Very noticeable. Roman didn't get the necklace, to show himself as the new as the tribal chief once again. So kind of interesting. And that, again, that's kind of what they do in wrestling, is if something is selling and something is doing well, you just keep booking it, and eventually we feel less less great about it, and then we move on. And then as time goes on, you think, man, the start of that feud was awesome, and it just seemed to last too long. And that's kind of what they do with a lot of these.
Yeah, it just. But they keep going, but they don't add, the necessary pieces. It feels like, they're just going to keep going, because this is now the third, fourth time that Roman and Solo have faced each other in a match. And, like you said, he didn't grab is it called the Ulafala?
Yeah,
I think.
Yep.
Why is he not grabbing that? Why is he not taking it back after he's beaten Solo 2-3 times? Solo's won once. I mean, what more is there? How can Solo keep being, I'm the tribal chief? You've lost to this group now, 3-4 times on a continuous basis. The only guy that's really had success against him is Jacob, and he might be out for a while now, is what they're saying. So that's kind of just what's mind-boggling. And of course, the Rock just not showing up anytime soon. Bad blood. He goes out, he does that threat.
Yeah.
Then he's just he's been MIA since then. And they've got we've got 4 months till WrestleMania, 5 months around there. And man, they're going to really just play the long game on all this. And, they're going to be a couple episodes where we're like, this isn't working. And then, they're going to, like you said, flip that switch, and we're going to be like, wow, that was all right. We get the process. But right now we're in that, this is kind of, getting a little stale for a lot of these storylines. And, it can get a little hard as wrestling fans. We just always have to trust that the end game will be worth it.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to Royal Rumble once they get there. I feel like they've got a lot of opportunity to really make that a special event, but I say that every year, and sometimes it just passes by and it doesn't happen. So like you said, we'll see. We all know why you're really upset. It's because LA Knight is no longer the U.S. champion, but we can get to that in a little bit as we go through the show chronologically here. Again, we might have a chance for a SmackDown and Raw review here at the end with some of the details that didn't, or some of the competitors, I should say, that didn't quite make it to War Games, but we'll save that for the end. We'll start off our War Games review here the way they started off, with the women's War Games match. Very interesting attire for a lot of folks. Naomi had a birthday hat. It was her birthday on Saturday. And she even, I think she wore that in the ring till it got knocked off rather quickly, which was interesting. But of course, the most interesting addition, I suppose, to the outfits was Rhea Ripley's. I don't even know what that thing, some sort of a monster type of mask that she had on, that she actually used as a competitor because it was, it's a face mask, to protect her orbital socket, which in storyline has been fractured. So I thought that was really cool. I also didn't think they necessarily overdid it. She wore it for a while in the match. At one point, she took it off just to kind of say, I'm strong. I don't need it necessarily here. Happened to be when Liv Morgan was threatening her with a bat. So it's a very interesting time, but that was the messaging that was sent. Let me ask you, but a lot of people have different feelings. Did you like the mask?
Yeah, I like the mask. I thought it was really cool. It was like a ram kind of, like a just like a ram skull. I thought they kind of overdid it a little bit when she took it off and showed like a big scar, kind of across her face. I didn't. Yeah, I was like, she had a clear mask on once and then a black mask, and she's kind of changing it. I thought it was pretty fun. But I'll say this: for somebody that broke their orbital bone, she's still headbutting everybody like 15 times. So it's like, no regards for that.
Well, and I mean, we'll talk about the different competitors here in some of the spots, but Rhea Ripley too. I mean, this is ultimately Penn's Liv, and we can get into that what that means in the end. But again, lots of details to go over here. Is that this is very much you complained in the past, or at least felt like it's pulling back from the women's competitors, that there's kind of this super Rhea Ripley thing going on. In this match, she was beaten with a bat, and it didn't necessarily throw her off too much. And Super Rhea, did surface, come out and end up winning this match against Liv.
Yeah, you pretty much knew where this was going the minute she was let out of the cage. I mean, like you said, Liv had her moment, with the bat, but other than that, it was she dominated. It's disappointing because as we've talked about it, as I've complained about it, you've got Super Rhea, and then you've got the coward Liv Morgan, who looked horrible in this. I would say even Nia, the other champ, she had huge spots. She was the first or second competitor. I think she started it.
Bailey,
yeah, and she had a lot of spots. Liv, I mean, other than the bat, just getting knocked out by everybody. She did have that cool spot on Bailey, I guess, with the chair. Other than that, I mean, and then she took the pin. It's like that's your WWE champ. I know that and the world champ are supposed to be, but we know what the top champ is. That's your top singles champion getting pinned again by Rhea Ripley. You thought a Candice LeRae, a Naomi, they had so many other people that could have taken the pin. Your WWE champ gets pinned, and she gets pinned by Rhea Ripley again. I just don't get where they make us believe, other than interference. It's like, what is behind Liv Morgan, and what is stopping Rhea from just being this dominant champ? I'm going to say it all the time, and I'm not complaining about the John Cena portion of it, but that John Cena run from like 2007 to 2012, just Charlotte Flair, just whenever they're there, they're going to win the title and they're always going to be in it. And that can be a problem. People get stale from that stuff. People get tired from it. And I feel like that's just kind of where they're going with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big Rhea Ripley fan, so I'm still invested. But like you said, they've just hurt the Liv Morgan character, who at one time, I mean, she always was small, so she had to kind of have the, fight her way up type of thing. And so she is really good in the ring, but as soon as they made her champion and they feel like, putting on their opposite side of Rhea, and they've got the Dominic Mysterio thing in there. So they could use spots where she could use help, but they basically, I mean, they've matched her up with Rodriguez to be like kind of the muscle in front of her championship reign. And it's so weird that at one time when she came back on the Revenge Tour, she wouldn't and it's just snapped in a week. Yeah. They were booking her as like, she will do anything to get her hands on Rhea Ripley. As soon as she got the upper hand, now she's the weak, cowardly champion that doesn't want to fight at all, and can't fight without a bat, that sort of thing. And it's just it doesn't. You don't need to do that. She's already at a disadvantage just size wise.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, that's the way they go with a lot of heel champions. I don't necessarily like it. It does. I mean, I suppose it gets heat on them for the live audience, but it seems like they could protect Liv a lot more. I guess I don't mind the War Games pin as much as just the pin she took a couple weeks ago on nightly TV.
Yeah.
But the problem is combining them, adding them up. Now Liv just looks like she's going to get pinned if she doesn't have her help.
Yeah, and said it. They brought Raquel Rodriguez. That hasn't really neutralized anything either, because when it's 2-on-1, on a Monday show, Rhea takes them both out. She's dominating them. She's taking Dominic out. It's really just they're putting themselves into a corner where we talked about it when she defended her title. We were like, that was a disappointment. It's like that's not realistic. And I mean, they could just go so many other ways with it. And it's just so disappointing because, like you said, Liv was a fun character to root for. As soon as she came into the Judgment Day, it just flipped. She doesn't want to fight. It's like she can't fight, which we know she can. She's been around for 8 years or so, part of so many factions, and she got the fans behind her. And I feel like they're just doing a terrible job. And her reign is that just the cowardly champion, but I just don't feel like it's working for her.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see where they move from here. Obviously, it's going to you're going to continue that feud, but creatively, how are they going to do it? No Dominic Mysterio interference, which was notable because usually there is. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll see that maybe tomorrow night on Raw. Some other thoughts throughout the match is it was interesting. WWE was very much putting over like the previous stats of War Games. In certain ways, and I think that was why Io Sky was involved in this match altogether. She always kind of felt like, yeah, she's recently a good guy, but she's kind of been a bad person. Then they kind of team her up with, Bailey and people that she'd have troubles with. So I was always kind of like, I'm a big Io Sky fan. I was just always kind of puzzled, like, why is she with the good guys? And you kind of get it by the way they kind of sold that is she's undefeated in the match. She's been in all the matches. Or I believe she's been in all the matches. I don't know if she's undefeated in all of them, but she's kind of making this event her thing, and she did once again with her purple and yellow trash can with a moonsault from the top of the cage. So Io Sky definitely got over in this match, and I guess moving into the future, she'll probably be at next year's War Games. So it's kind of cool when a wrestler can kind of take an event and kind of make it their own.
Yeah, and you kind of forget that NXT has a War Games as well, right? So they kind of factored in. I think Raquel, they said this was like her third or fourth.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was there, and we talked about it. The past couple of weeks, it all felt rushed. It all felt weird put together. And I know, with Io, she had her spot. Man, that looked dangerous. And it looked really weird to see her with the trash can over her like that, and then she's jumping. That's a lot of faith. To be able to do that. And I like that at the same time she's doing that, Tiffany's doing hers on the other side. But I always find it funny when the competitors just kind of, they have to be in that spot. So, the camera tries not to pan in on them, but, the other four have to kind of like mysteriously walk into it, and you just see them kind of just walk and then wait a second or two and then boom, they get it. But yeah, that was a really cool spot. When they both did that, and man, Ia's just, she's great in the ring, and I'm hoping they give her a push after this, whether it's, WWE, the women's title with Kairi Sane and Damage Control and that. But I hope they do something, because I think the past couple weeks she's really shown where she can be.
Yeah. And remember, they have a U.S. title and Intercontinental title tournament starting now. So there should be plenty of more TV time and relevant, stakes on the line type of stuff when they're adding in these titles. And she certainly would be, I think, a favorite to win one of those and be a good first person to carry that belt. Only other notes that I kind of had in here is Tiffany Stratton, which you mentioned, notably not getting her on with Candice LeRae, kind of not very good teamwork, which is to be expected. They've been telling that story, but she found a way to get her briefcase in the match, and we talked about it off air. It was kind of a cool moment. She had a chance to pin either one. But it's almost and it's the blessing, I suppose, kind of turning into a curse of the Money in the Bank briefcase, is that you can always get a pop from the live crowd. Is this going to happen? Is this going to be the time? But they've almost gone to that well too many times that at some point, let's have a payoff, And it's a great accessory for Stratton, especially if they don't have the long-term plan kind of figured out. But I would just. Well, it's almost like Shinsuke and his mist that he used the other night. If you space the mist, it can be a very powerful spot, very cool, and pay off wrestling fans in general. But if you do it every week, like they were doing with him, they've done that before with Asuka, and now in the Money in the Bank thing with Stratton, is just it's not surprising if it happens every match.
Yeah, and it would have made put a cool twist on the War Games too. Because if she would have, if she does that. Does it end it, or does it just that was her Money in the Bank, so that kind of, she's a champ now. And then that could have created a fun little this and that. But, of course, she takes too long. And that was the biggest pop, I feel like, of the night, was when she got the briefcase. Everybody was so excited about it. And they do this every premium live event, every time, every Friday night SmackDown. And at that point, I just wanted her to pin somebody, just do it. And then even at the end, Nia's taken out there, Liv's taken out there. Tiffany has a chance to do something. And instead she goes over and she's like, "No, are you okay?" Stuff like that. They're just really not, they have a great opportunity to put her over, because I'll say this, I feel like they've really done her a disservice the last couple of months. I feel like this is one of the worst Money in the Bank holds, somebody's had. It's just, she's a lackey to Nia Jax now. That's about it. She's not really carving anything out for herself. And I'll be honest, she kind of got outshined by Candice LeRae in this War Games. I felt like Candice LeRae did a really good job and showed she's a great competitor. And Tiffany, I mean, she had the prettiest moonsault, and then her attempt at a cash in, and that was kind of it. That's kind of all she contributed to this War Games.
Yeah, I mean, I thought she looked okay, but you're right. I think about her booking in general, and I like her tag with her pairing with Nia as an idea and the way that it started. But they've just had her take pins and make her look weak. And again, when she won Money in the Bank, and part of her character was always just like coming in and overconfident. Yeah. She's not worried about who's won this or that, and she's just going to take on everybody. And that version of her felt a lot more dangerous with the Money in the Bank briefcase than what they've kind of turned her into. But again, it's something they do almost every year with their Money in the Bank winner that they hold on to. Usually one's cashed in that night, one they hold on to, and they weaken that competitor. So the surprise cash in and ultimately winning is even more of a surprise. But I feel like they had, we'll get to missed opportunities here in a second with LA Knight, but I feel like they had a great opportunity to strike when it was hot. Now, I don't think it's past time, but it just felt like it would have been a big moment when she felt very threatening as a champion. Now she feels like, well, yeah, she just won because of Money in the Bank, if it does end up happening, which, my goodness, I hope it does. Let's get to the next match before we take a break. LA Knight against Shinsuke Nakamura for the U.S. title. And you're a big LA Knight fan. Yeah. So this one had to hurt a little bit. Shinsuke, they've been toying with his entrance music, slowing it down, kind of a cool way to do it. Also, hailing from Japan, I thought they kind of had cool, like a red moon, kind of looked like the flag. So the new entrance looked very cool. Matchup with LA Knight here. Ultimately, you have those two rings there. So I'm glad they kind of used it in the singles competition. They have the King of Strong Style get over with a reverse DDT on the steel plate, then hence his Kinshasa to the back of the head of LA Knight for the win here. There were a couple of shots that I think LA Knight took that were really strong style. Either they, maybe just laid them in there from Shinsuke, but ultimately this character, and we talked about it, bringing Shinsuke back, who was on such a losing streak, even with an over character, was going to be hard to have him lose right away. Yeah. So to get him the win is good for his character, but they were kind of booked in a corner because LA Knight needed a good U.S. title reign, and I don't know if he necessarily had it. Shinsuke was kind of his first big obstacle that they kind of rushed in the last couple weeks, threw on this card. He loses it. I'm sure he'll get it back in the next month or two or whatever. I think this is the start of a feud with Shinsuke, but I don't know. I mean, his title reign, when you look back at it now, after he defeated Logan Paul, which was Logan Paul had that for a long time, defeated Rey Mysterio, brought a lot of eyes to that title. After that, he's defeated Andrade, Carmelo Hayes, and Berto in 119 days. And it's just, and I already noted, like, LA Knight's, even as a U.S. title winner, still felt a little short of what the momentum they had maybe a year ago at this time. And so it just feels like they didn't strike when the iron was hot, and now they really kind of left short of the special movement that was LA Knight, who's a 43-year-old competitor.
Yeah.
a lot to throw at you there.
Yeah, this was probably the disappointment of the night for me. So, okay, I agree with you. I get it. They have to show that Shinsuke is just not a runner-up, all the time. You got to do that. That's kind of what I was afraid of with this, match going in, this feud, because like you said, I mean, this was the first meaningful title defense for LA Knight, and he loses. He drops it here. And I thought it was a fine match. It was a fun match to watch. I just didn't think they were gonna pull the trigger so fast and have him lose it, because we've talked about it. These feuds where they hot potato the title, just it devalues the title. And I feel like that's now where we're gonna run into. It's either that, or you just have him lose again and then maybe move him to Raw, have him try something new. And it just very disappointing as an LA Knight fan, because he still has the fan base behind him. They've missed twice, I think, with him winning the Money in the Bank 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
They really haven't booked him well. He was organically grown, kind of just did his own thing, and the fans just went for it. And as you said, he's 43 years old. I mean, John Cena, I think, is 46, 40 something.
Mm-hmm.
He's retiring. Guys that are that age are retiring, and he's just getting started. So, as someone who's really rooting for him and wanting him to do something, it's very disappointing to see it end like that so fast. And I know I'm talking like, this is the end of it, but I know it's not. They're going to hot potato it, but I just feel like this wasn't the greatest decision to make for him. It just made him look really weak. And we talked about it. His reign just hasn't been great. And this is kind of like with Braun Breaker on the other side of it. They had him lose to Sammy and then dropped it to Jay, and we feel like that may have maybe devalued it a little bit. That's kind of the exact same thing with LA Knight.
Well, and you did mention they do have a couple options here. Sometimes they'll strip, they'll take off your mid-card title to push you to the next spot. And that, that's what happened to Gunther. And if they move him to Raw, LA Knight, Gunther, I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, you've got the ultimate heel that the crowd's just naturally against, and Gunther in the ultimate kind of underdog story. I mean, I think he could reignite that fire that the crowd had behind LA Knight in a feud like that. So that's certainly something to look forward to. Maybe if they do that when they move to Netflix, you could, like you said, I mean, I think the most likely case here is that he'll go back with Shinsuke, and maybe they swap the title back and forth a few times, kind of like what's been going on with Braun Breaker a little bit. Or they could take him off TV for a while. He's definitely a guy with his entrance, with his excitement. Again, sometimes being taken off TV can help a little bit, even if it's just a few weeks, that when he comes back out, the pop's new, he feels refreshed, and whatever, they go with from there, a new goal, new feud, whatnot. So a lot of different kind of options here, but I mean, I believe he'll probably end up winning this back from Shinsuke.
It's just, I mean, if you're right and they push him into the main title, one of the main title pictures, I just feel like this U.S. title run wasn't enough to make it believable that he could hold a world title. It just wasn't, because that's kind of what they go off of, and he still has a fan reaction, but they can't be impressed with, the feuds they gave him and all that stuff. It wasn't great. It wasn't some of his best work. And that is part of who he was with. It wasn't horrible. Just it was kind of stale, and I know we're saying that about a bunch of champions, but they have to make it work in a way. And I feel like just with him, it didn't. So if he did go into a feud with Gunther, it would be fun, good matches. But I mean, the chances of him coming out on top, would be very slim. Just based off of, kind of how his U.S. title reign was.
Yeah, it's definitely very forgettable. And again, that's part of the danger, I think, in taking it off him and putting it back on, is then you kind of feel like, well, he didn't really, it wasn't special the first time, so why are we excited about him winning it back? Again, to me, it's just the competition he had, Andrade, Carmelo Hayes, Berto. Some guys are better, and they'll say this over time, some guys are better chasing a belt than having a belt. And usually that's the energetic time to get behind a guy and, say you were there before it all took place. But sometimes you're just not given too much. I was always a huge Dean Ambrose fan. And people were upset with his title defense. And it's like, well, given like Dolph Ziggler and AJ Styles feud sounds good on paper. They just kept hitting each other in the nuts.
Yeah.
It was just what, you booked him. If you don't book them well, then they're not going to have a great title reign. And I just don't know how much you can do with our Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, who are doing their own thing over and over and over again. Then a quick match against Berto. And, I suppose he also took on the other
Escobar, right?
Escobar as that. But again, that's, I'm not naming off Hall of Famers here.
No, not at all. And then also I heard that this was Shinsuke's first premium live event win since 2021.
Yeah. I mean,
The first time he's pinned anybody on a premium live event since then. That's who they had him drop the title.
Right.
To. So that's bad.
But it's new Shinsuke. I'm excited for the new Shinsuke character. But yeah, I mean that's not a great title run for him in any means. All right, let's take a quick break. We got plenty more to talk about. We'll get to the Intercontinental title between Braun Breaker, Sheamus, and Ludwig Kaiser, the World Heavyweight Championship between Gunther and Damian Priest, and of course the Men's War Games match between the New Bloodline and the OG Bloodline. That's all coming up next year on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket when we return.
Load up on meat and more this fall at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese at 84th and Havelock. This week's special through November 12th is $2 off all crackers, $2 off on grind, $3 off on salami, and buy one, get one free on stew beef. Limit of 2. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Highway 2 in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
You're counting on your team to win, so why not prove it? By placing your bets at Warhorse Sportsbook. Their win is your win. Put your money where your mouth is on nearly every sporting event. Use the Warhorse app to check odds and build your bets before placing your wagers in person at Warhorse Casino, including live in-game betting. No bets, no glory. Wagers may only be placed on Nebraska-based teams when played outside the state of Nebraska. Must be 21 or older to gamble. Gambling problem? Call 1-833-BET-OVER.
Hi, it's Joel Norman, the voice of your Lincoln Stars hockey team. Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket to hear the latest on the Stars with myself, head coach Rocky Russo, and special player guests.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call Wellman Plumbing at 402-434-2400 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-434-2400.
Prashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
If you're in Seward or Milford, listen up. Select Plumbing is now servicing your area with no trip charges from Lincoln. Select Plumbing works on a variety of issues for your home and business, including general plumbing, water heaters, faucet and fixture repair, underground sewer and water repairs, backflow testing, and more. Keep your property free from leaks and other issues. Call today for a free estimate, 402-560-6197. It's not just Lincoln, Waverly, and the surrounding area anymore. It's also Seward and Milford with no trip charges. Contact Select Plumbing to inquire at 402-560-6197.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Glad to be back with you for some Sunday Night Heat here on Nuclear Heat. I always thought maybe that'd be a pretty cool name as well. With myself, Jake Bockoven, and my tag team partner, Augie Pena. We're going through Survivor Series War Games, which happened on Saturday night. We already went through the Women's War Games match and LA Knight dropping the U.S. title to Shinsuke Nakamura. Let's move on to maybe one of the hardest-hitting matches of the night, and it's always that way with Sheamus. We know, banger after banger after banger. Braun Breaker against Sheamus against Ludwig Kaiser in the Intercontinental title. This, along with the U.S. title, I thought felt kind of rushed. It was kind of weird with War Games because we were waiting to see like what else is going to happen besides War Games. They kind of threw LA Knight and Shinsuke Nakamura together in a couple weeks. They've been having this Kaiser, Sheamus, Braun Breaker thing for months. Just kind of recently resparked it, and so I was glad to see my favorite Ludwig Kaiser get an opportunity at another premium live event. And this again was a really good matchup. Had a few cool spots. The shillelagh was used by Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. And Sheamus, as usual, has plenty of welts on him by the end of the match. You had a Braun Breaker leap from the apron to double clothesline both the other competitors on the announcer's desk. I thought that was pretty cool. And then when Kaiser pulled the ref out of the ring to screw Sheamus out of his Intercontinental title. And of course, the story here continues to be Braun Breaker holding the title. Sheamus trying to get that Intercontinental title to complete his Grand Slam champion type of feat. This is the only title that he has not been able to get, and they can continue to tell the story as long as they want to. Sheamus is it's just great. And Ludwig Kaiser is basically just kind of being his own man, trying to rise up, much like we've seen over the last couple months, I suppose, from Bronson Reed or somebody like that, trying to move up the card. So that's what we had here. Ultimately, Breaker does get the win. I think he speared both guys, and ultimately speared Ludwig Kaiser out of the ring, and then speared Sheamus, who was pretty beat up at that point, to get the win. Can't complain here. Again, I think this is a match that maybe could have been on weekly television. We've seen it in different ways over the last couple weeks to kind of set this up, and was very good in-ring action. So I can't complain too much. I just wanted Ludwig to win.
Yeah, it was a banger, and I will say this is one of the few ones that created a new storyline. Possibly Sheamus and Ludwig gonna have I mean, he's 100% the reason Sheamus didn't win that title.
Oh yeah,
pulling the ref out to stop the count. That was great television to me. That's great storytelling. I agree. This is something we've seen, but I would say this is probably the best wrestled match of the night. Best storytelling. It wasn't amazing by any stretch, but it was, either the best or the second best match, of the night, I thought. And I thought Braun, every character was able to really showcase what they're great at. Sheamus, hard hitter, Bronson, the athleticism, your boy Ludwig being kind of a snake, kind of just weaseling his way in there. I thought it was good for all three of them. And, I'm 100% fine with the outcome. Braun, build him up as you can before you eventually move him to that main event title. But like I said, Sheamus, Ludwig, now, you've been saying, your boy Ludwig, you got to give him something. Hey, a feud with Sheamus and possibly a victory. That's some great elevation there. That's great for your career.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if they're going to keep this running, kind of this three-way battle for the Intercontinental title, or break it off, because I do agree. I think Sheamus and Ludwig, the way that it was booked, can kind of have one of those feuds that matters despite there not being a title on the line, which could open up Braun Breaker to welcome another competitor for his title, which I think would be fresh. I mean, anything new for him.
Yeah, the thing that worries me about the Braun being available, who just ended kind of a little bit of a storyline, Jey Uso, they haven't finished their, their portion of it. So it could, and which it wasn't bad, but it could just end up being, hey, Jey comes back to Raw, I want that title back, and then they go back into a feud, which, like I said, wouldn't be the worst thing, but it would be nice to see him with somebody else, kind of in a fresh feud, maybe somebody, former world champ that's coming back or something there, just somebody we haven't seen him with.
Yeah. So we'll see. Braun Breaker, obviously very impressive in the ring. Let's move on to the World Heavyweight Championship between Gunther and Damian Priest. This match was much about Gunther not having the confidence that he once had now that he's lost to Cody, which, again, we've discussed before. Just feels silly. Gunther is one of their most, a young hot star with the World Heavyweight Championship belt on him. I don't know why they would go to that storyline, but that's kind of where they went. And Damian Priest has made him look like a punk the last couple of weeks. And so that's kind of what they had there. Gunther eventually did get the upper hand with a Priest shoulder injury, and he kept targeting that. So I thought good storytelling there. Good hard-hitting contest between the heavyweights. Obviously not too much on the top rope. They did do a few spots there, which was entertaining. But as many predicted, this ultimately ends up with Damian Priest getting thrown out of the ring, falling out of the ring with one of those top rope spots, kind of going wrong. Gunther hits hard. The ref checks on him. Out of nowhere comes Finn Balor for the coup de grace, and hurts Damian Priest quite a bit. And then Gunther takes out Finn Balor, actually, because he didn't want any help, and then gets Priest in the ring, gets his pin for the win. So, yeah, I mean, this is just, again, a long-term storytelling. Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. They never got the most out of it, so they're going back to it. We keep saying at some point, I think you have Finn Balor as his alter ego come out and take on Damian Priest. And so that's what they're building to. It's nice to kind of have it back, but it just feels like a bit choppy the way that they've done it. And this was, again, foretold for a long time. Finn Balor said he's at the height of Damian Priest's career. His next opportunity is going to come back and backstab him. So we saw backstabbing Finn here. Again, very predictable, but I thought it was solid. Not the most celebrated matchup, I suppose, of the night from the internet community.
Yeah. See, this is where we have different opinions on it, because I hated this. I feel like this was very unnecessary. I feel like we wanted Finn and Damian, but we wanted this months ago, 2 or 3 months ago when all this started. You 100% missed the boat on it. There was no reason to have Gunther and Damian go against each other then if this was the end game. I was disappointed because I don't know where the heck they're going with Gunther's storyline on here. Like, his confidence is shaken. He's not the same guy. He wants to prove himself. I thought the best part of that match was when he took out Finn. I thought that was great. That kind of brought the Gunther back. Hey, I don't need help. I can do this by myself. But other than that, I mean, I was very disappointed with this. I thought this could have been, a match of the night contender, sorry. And I just didn't think it was. And then the whole Finn, it just felt very choppy, very rushed, very sloppy. And I mean, didn't Damian already pin Finn? Finn. I mean, in a tag match essentially, but he did it. And I mean, what further does he need? Finn wants his revenge, but Finn's over here being a side character that you only see backstage. I'm just
champion, so it's kind of further.
Yeah, that finally defended, their title on this past Raw. And that it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, what does Damian possibly get out of this? Unless they reignite it in a way, like you said, they bring the demon out, do things like that. Yeah. But other than that, I'm not looking forward to it. And I felt like this was kind of a waste of a Gunther Damian Priest rematch.
Well, and it is. It's back to Judgment Day turmoil, which never just kind of got the payoff that you wanted. But again, going back to kind of striking when the iron's hot, there is that there's that SummerSlam. Coming out of SummerSlam, that was kind of the big Judgment Day breakup. Like that was appointment television. I wanted to see what was going to happen next. How's the Judgment Day? One of my favorite factions over the last couple of years, certainly breaking up. How was that all going to be received? And I thought they did a good job, putting Liv in the group and Finn seen menacing. And then just over the weeks, they just lost it. And then they kind of paid it off, but not enough. And now it's back, and it just feels like maybe creatively they could have went a lot of different routes to kind of do this. And it's not like it seems like if you're bringing it back now, it can't quite get to WrestleMania, right? I mean, so it's just kind of interesting timing, but you're kind of back to, okay, what's going to happen with the old Judgment Day members and the new Judgment Day members? But that's right where we left SummerSlam.
Yeah, and like you said, Rhea's now back against Liv. Damian's back against Finn. The Terror Twins are probably going to come back. It's just the same thing. And the Terror Twins have won. They've got the edge on it, and it's just hard. I bet they'll still twist it a little bit to where you're interested. Dominic, obviously, he's one of the big names. They'll probably include in both of them. They keep doing the same thing over and over again. The problem that they put themselves into was that, as I mentioned, Damien and Rhea have both pinned. Rhea's pinned Liv now twice or 3 times, and Damien's pinned Finn. I mean, what's the payoff? What's the point? So it's just a little disappointing, and I guess we'll just have to be patient and see what they do, because they're probably going for Royal Rumble. I mean, that's probably the closest thing they can get to, a big premium live event for these.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, again, I'm interested enough, but it just feels a little bit choppy there again. And the biggest problem with me throughout the whole thing is that Finn coming out of, I mean, part of their storyline was that Damian Priest was getting opportunities that Finn wasn't. But Finn was the previous world champion already. So
yeah,
they haven't presented Finn Balor near the equal of Damian Priest. And if you do that, then you just don't have, and the way that they've devalued Liv, as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, they just don't seem to, the Terror Twins just tower over them.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to want somebody to get their comeuppance when they're tiny and they're not seeming all that menacing. They're just, they're just kind of popping out of nowhere at the wrong times. I just, again, I would have booked this differently, but I would have booked Finn differently for years.
Oh yeah.
I love the Judgment Day, but again, they just never, they act like his championship reign never happened or didn't get over enough. I know he's smaller, but that coup de grace used to take people out.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. We'll see what they do going next with that. But we got to take a quick break. We got one more match to get to. We might get to a little bit of SmackDown and Raw, but we got to get to the main event of War Games here. New Bloodline versus OG Bloodline. Everything that went down there. We'll talk about that next. Coming up here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket.
Load up on meat and more this fall at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese at 84th and Havelock. This week's special through November 12th is $2 off all crackers, $2 off on grind, $3 off on salami, and buy one, get one free on stew beef. Limit of 2. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Highway 2 in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
You're counting on your team to win, so why not prove it? By placing your bets at Warhorse Sportsbook. Their win is your win. Put your money where your mouth is on nearly every sporting event. Use the Warhorse app to check odds and build your bets before placing your wagers in person at Warhorse Casino, including live in-game betting. No bets, no glory. Wagers may only be placed on Nebraska-based teams when played outside the state of Nebraska. Must be 21 or older to gamble. Gambling problem? Call 1-833-BET-OVER.
Hi, it's Joel Norman, the voice of your Lincoln Stars hockey team. Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket to hear the latest on the Stars with myself, head coach Rocky Russo, and special player guests.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call Wellman Plumbing at 402-434-2400 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-434-2400.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
If you're in Seward or Milford, listen up. Select Plumbing is now servicing your area with no trip charges from Lincoln. Select Plumbing works on a variety of issues for your home and business, including general plumbing, water heaters, faucet and fixture repair, underground sewer and water repairs, backflow testing, and more. Keep your property free from leaks and other issues. Call today for a free estimate, 402-560-6197. It's not just Lincoln, Waverly, and the surrounding area anymore. It's also Seward and Milford with no trip charges. Contact Select Plumbing to inquire at 402-560-6197.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We are back for our War Games review here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket. We've made it through much of last night's card. We just got to get to the new Bloodline against the OG Bloodline, the main event in War Games. Started off with Tama Tonga menacingly running around, crawling around the ring, and Jey Uso, whose entrance was notable that it was after Roman Reigns and CM Punk. Now, he's got a very great intro, but I thought that that was kind of strange. I thought they CM Punk and Reigns coming out before Jey Uso was definitely a choice.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like you said, it was kind of it's the interactive, one there. And the thing I loved too was those intro or the CM Punk, or the Jey Uso University. And then Jimmy's like, no Yeet University. I thought that was hilarious how they did it on all the sides. They did that for the women's too. So I thought they had some good intros, and I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was a unique way to get into it. But of course, we had lots of good action in here. I do think, and this was with the women's too, like just the way that they have it is that every other opponent, or a competitor will come in from one side to the other, and the match doesn't start until like 30 minutes into the match when the final guy enters the ring. And I was kind of thinking about it because I was like, well, then what's the big point about watching the first 30 minutes? And like, I get it. You get to see the strategy, but nobody can be pinned. Nobody can, so you're ultimately going to end up with your 5 versus 5. And so I kind of thought about that. And then I thought, wait a minute, this is like somebody telling me that just to watch like the last 3 minutes of a football game. That's not how, So I guess, but to me in the wrestling match, there were times where I'm like, well, I can go get popcorn. I can go, I can miss 10 minutes. It doesn't really matter because we still got 30 minutes till the other, this match starts officially. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Again, started with Tama Tonga and Jey Uso. They kind of felt out the crowd before they got going. Bronson Reed would enter, then Jimmy, then Jacob Fatu, then Sami Zayn, then Tama Loa, and then CM Punk. They did kind of on the Punk and Reigns deal. They kind of were telling the story of them not necessarily getting along. CM Punk jumped in front of Reigns when he was about to go in. Reigns one time told Sami Zayn to go in before Punk when he was about to go in. So you kind of had that, well, these guys aren't quite teammates type of deal. But they ultimately end up, and everybody's grabbing different stuff as they go in. So I thought CM Punk with his toolbox was pretty funny. Would even mention the toilet seat in the women's match.
Yeah,
but, there were a lot of different things that that entered into War Games. But I thought one moment that was kind of weak was that they locked the door so that Roman couldn't get in. And like the announcers were going along with it. They're like, well, he can't even start War Games if he can't get in. And we already had seen women's scale. We saw Tama Tonga basically get close up there. It's like they're just ignoring the fact that we all know he's going to have to climb. And I think if he just acknowledged he's going to have to climb and they're going to meet him up there, that would have been a lot more that would make a lot more sense. And we didn't have to play our kind of wrestling fairy tale storyline being told there. Because it was the whole, like the company, the whole thing was behind it. Sikoa was like laughing, like, how is he gonna get in now? And it's so dumb.
And then they seem so dumbfounded when it's like, oh, he's gonna climb it. They're like, wait a minute, he can climb. Yeah, I was laughing at that, and it just I don't know. It's WWE. You got to remember, we got to use our imagination on things. We just got to go with the flow. Sometimes I'm surprised you missed it, but when CM Punk came out, slapped Bronson Reed in the cage.
Yeah.
I guess that was unscripted. That was just CM from kind of the interweb and things like that. Them saying that was him just kind of trying to add
very
something
on brand for CM Punk.
Yeah,
I liked it either way.
And we know he'll never get in trouble for doing things like that. But it got a good reaction. But yeah, it's always interesting because until the War Games started, because it's still Survivor Series War Games. So I thought it would go the Survivor Series way of everybody gets eliminated. I forgot it doesn't matter until that fifth person, and then it's one person gets pinned. It's over.
Done.
I don't really like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I think it would add more to it if people could get eliminated. Let's say by the time Roman Reigns goes in, it's a 2-on-5, 2-on-4. Then it's interesting, then it's like, oh, how are they going to win? And then it's like, okay, when they win, but just the fact of, this is going to take 45 minutes. But as you said, only 5 minutes are going to really matter. And it seemed that way. Roman was maybe in it for 8 minutes, maybe 10, if that. And then, that's it on there. But, some decent spots, man, those guys were really risking their bodies for it.
Yeah.
On it there. And then I get CM Punk and Roman Reigns don't like each other, but man, they were really just playing into that the whole time. And it took Paul Heyman coming out to say, remember, get together, do all that stuff. And I don't know that I wasn't a huge fan of, but I thought this match was fine. It was okay. And yeah, I just, those announcers, they get paid a lot of money to try to make us believe certain things. And man, that was funny.
Yeah. And it was just like, it wasn't, it's like if they knew, if the new bloodline knew that he was going to scale up the War Game structure, then they would have met him at the top. And you would have had a really cool spot of like, he might fall down either way, or but he just kind of ran through them as they one at a time, kind of went up there.
Yeah.
And then, like you said before, there was a spot too that it matters the timing in the camera angle that you have everybody kind of stand and gather together for Roman to jump on him. And so part of this match was just not great wrestling.
Yeah.
But part of it was really good. Like you said, Bronson Reed attempting the tsunami from the top onto a chair on Roman. CM Punk saved him. So that was good storytelling as well as a really good spot. Jimmy also jumped from the top of the structure, I believe, as well. And on a table. To take out Jacob Fatu, I believe it was. And Fatu, it was interesting because I couldn't tell if they were kind of going on the fly, if that injury was real or not, because he suffered a leg injury. He was no-showing, finishing moves earlier.
That was crazy.
So to have a leg injury that was going to disrupt him was like, it felt like that was a real injury. And then like, how are you going to distribute the spots and just kind of go on the fly there? Ultimately, I thought it was just all too kind of predictable. They ended up with the OG bloodline getting the advantage and surrounding Roman. Everybody kind of does their finisher. Roman gets the spear, pins Sikoa. And then again, I think they missed what we all kind of thought this was about, which was reclaiming to be the tribal chief to get the necklace, which I can't pronounce. But
Ulafala, I think.
Yeah, you do a pretty good job of doing. And then the next disappointing part was there was like 10 minutes of these guys celebrating, holding up the one, CM Punk doing his go to sleep motion, and the whole time you're kind of thinking, okay, they're not. I don't see the logo yet. They're not out, and they just nothing really happened after that. But from the me describing it, I know this doesn't sound like a great match. What were your thoughts overall?
I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. It kind of went the way we thought it would. I think we both said the new bloodline maybe needed this a little bit more. So where do you go from here? It's kind of a little confusing there. The good spots, some weird spots in there as well. With it, I think some guys got legitimately injured. So I guess we'll see where they go with that. I was thinking they would go with the way they were portraying it, CM Punk, Bronson Reed, maybe having a mini feud. I guess Bronson Reed's legitimately injured. So they might take him off for a while. So we'll kind of see. And we talked about this off air. No Seth Rollins interference to kind of further a storyline, which we both said we probably would have hated, but we felt was maybe a little necessary to, why is CM Punk here? Things like that. But yeah, very predictable on it. Jacob Fatu, man, he keeps shining through all this. I think he was the man of the match. Like you said, he was no-selling a bunch of finishers. Bronson Reed, I thought he did really good as well. That tsunami looked like it was going to be massive.
Yeah.
And
they played it close. It was a lot of times they move those guys, out of the way too early, and it's like doesn't look great. But at the same time, you understand you don't want to mess it up. But they played that one close.
They did. But I will say this: Bronson Reed, that tsunami is destructive. He needs to do something about his arms when he's coming down though, because he's like flapping them like this. So that's been pointed out quite a few times by people. It looked a little weird on there. But yeah, and then Solo, we kind of talked about with Liv taking the pin. He takes the pin once again. I know he took everybody's finisher, but what's the point? What's if The Rock doesn't come back then or this Friday, and you kind of just go, oh, we're gonna challenge you guys again. What's the point of all this?
Like in where you'd have to finally get to the stakes, and maybe that's where they put the Ula follow on the line.
Yeah.
But it's just like, well, we've already seen this. What does it mean if you win this next one? So again, I think that the overall War Games was entertaining enough.
Mm-hmm.
It always seems to me, just because it sounds cool and it's the whole NXT idea from Triple H and all that. It's kind of a newer look, but it seems to me it's always going to be kind of hard to deliver because of the match format that we talked about for it to be overly, one of the best events of the year. I wouldn't probably put it quite on that level,
No.
but it moves some things along. You did have the surprise again in Shinsuke winning, but ultimately, like we said, we don't necessarily know what this means for the bloodline. It brings back the Judgment Day stuff. Intercontinental title stayed pat, and there was no Cody Rhodes. I mean, they didn't have Cody Rhodes or the KO. They're moving that to the next big main event thing they've got going on. But I'm excited. Like I always say, the week after the premium live event is one of the my favorite times of the programming, because you get fresh feuds and you kind of get your answers on where they're going next. So I'll be very much looking forward to Raw and SmackDown, but it's not as much like I can't wait to see what happens. It's just that they're going to have to do something.
Yeah, they will. And I will say this, the big thing that they caught us with, and we didn't get to talk about it because it was on Monday, that US or the Women's Intercontinental Championship tournament, that's going to be on Raw now.
Yeah.
That's huge. The US women's on those, I'm excited for those now. And I am curious to see, like you said, CM Punk, the Bloodline, kind of where they go with this. But I'm also worried it's just going to be any other typical, what we've seen the last couple of weeks or months.
Yeah. Well, one reason to get very excited, I think, for Raw tomorrow night as we close out the show is the 10-year reunion of the New Day. And Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, they've been teasing that all along. But that last Monday, they went out each other's hearts. They basically said everything anybody who, that you could say for guys that are supposed to be teammates. Big E was still doing like, he wasn't part of that, but he was doing like premium live event stuff as far as on the mic. So I'm going to be interested to see if he gets back. But they're really setting up for Xavier Woods and Kofi to go at it this Monday. Tomorrow.
That hurt my heart. How do you mention Brock, the 7 seconds?
Oh, yeah.
The fact that Kofi said, Xavier, you've done nothing without us, and oh man, they dropped some bombs. And that to me was, that added intrigue. You're right. That it's like, okay, who's turning heel? Because that's the thing is it was Xavier. Kofi came out and was mad, and
at this point
he tore it up. I wouldn't be disappointed with anything. They got us kind of reeled in for that one. I'd agree. They did a great job on it.
All following a defeat from Alpha Academy. So
that was rough. Yeah.
that made it all. That's what drove them to be so upset, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But that'll wrap it up for Nuclear Heat. Once again, thanks to Augie for jumping in studio. Thanks again to all of you, the listeners. We will talk next week. Of course, like I said, with what should be a very interesting week of Raw and SmackDown coming up. But that'll wrap it up for this show. Uncut coming up next year on 93.7 The Ticket.